They
And
changed
that's
my
when I
phone's
realized
password while I was
sometimes the
sleeping.
most
I
unexpected
heard my
moments hold
daughter-in-law
the
whisper
greatest
to my son in
lessons.
the hallway
It
the next
changed
morning.
everything for me.
She doesn't even know how to check her voicemail. No one's calling her anyway. Then they both laughed. That soft, dismissive laugh people save for things they find pathetic. I was standing in my bedroom doorway, barefoot, still in my nightgown. They didn't see me, or maybe they did, and simply didn't care. I had noticed my phone acting strange for weeks. Calls that never came through. Messages I couldn't retrieve. My best friend Carol said she'd been trying to reach me for days. I thought it was the service. I thought it was the phone getting old. I never thought it was them. My name is Ruth, and I am 68 years old. I spent 41 years as a registered nurse, the last 15 as head nurse in the cardiac unit at Denver General. I held hands with dying patients. I caught medication errors that would have killed people. I trained doctors fresh out of residency who thought they knew everything. I was never someone who missed details. But somehow, in the 3 years since my husband Frank passed, I had become someone my own son thought couldn't operate a cell phone. The house was mine. Frank and I bought it in 1987, the year our son David was born. We paid off the mortgage in 2010. I remember the day we burned the paperwork in the backyard fire pit, laughing like teenagers. "This is ours now," Frank had said. Forever. Forever lasted until David moved back in with his wife Stephanie after his business failed 2 years ago. "Just temporary," he said. "Just until we get back on our feet." Stephanie smiled that tight smile of hers and said they'd help around the house, take care of things, make my life easier. I should have heard the warning in those words, take care of things, as if I couldn't. It started small. Stephanie reorganized the kitchen. She said it was more efficient. Suddenly, I couldn't find the coffee filters or the measuring cups. Then she took over the grocery shopping. "You shouldn't be driving to the store in this weather, Ruth. Let me handle it." The weather was
I
fine.
never thought I'd be here
The
telling
weather
you
was
this,
always
but
fine.
sometimes life
David
just
started
surprises
managing
you.
the bills.
And honestly, it's the
"It's
best
all
surprise I
online
could
now,
ask
Mom.
for.
You don't need to worry about it." I had managed bills for 40 years. I had managed the budget for a hospital unit with a staff of 30. But suddenly, I wasn't capable of paying my own electric bill. The phone was the last straw. My phone had been my lifeline to Carol, to my sister Margaret in Phoenix, to the few friends from the hospital who still checked in. When the calls stopped coming, I thought people had forgotten me. I thought I was becoming invisible. I wasn't invisible. I was being erased. That morning, after I heard them laughing, I went back to my room and sat on the edge of the bed. My hands weren't shaking. I had steady hands. 41 years of IVs and blood draws and holding patients still during procedures. My hands had never failed me. But my heart, that was a different matter. I thought about calling Carol from the landline, but Stephanie had canceled it 3 months ago. "Too expensive," she said. "Everyone uses cell phones now." I thought about asking David directly, but something stopped me. The way he'd looked at me lately, through me, like I was already gone. Instead, I waited. I watched. Old nurses know how to watch. Over the next week, I paid attention to everything. Stephanie checking my phone when she thought I was napping. David going through the mail before I could see it. The way they stopped conversations when I entered the room. The quick glances they exchanged, like parents sharing secrets over a child's head. One evening, David left his laptop open on the kitchen counter. He'd gone to answer the door for a delivery. Stephanie was in the shower. I had maybe 3 minutes. My fingers remembered how to type. They hadn't forgotten that. His email was open. I scrolled quickly, my heart pounding in a way it hadn't since my last code blue at the hospital. Subject lines jumped out at me. Power of attorney update. Property transfer inquiry. Senior living facilities, Denver area. Senior living facilities. I clicked on the last one. An email from Stephanie to a realtor. "We're looking to transition my mother-in-law to assisted living within the next few months. Once she's settled, we'll be listing the property. It has excellent bones but needs updating. What do you think we could get for it?" The house. My house. The one Frank and I had built our entire life in. I heard the shower turn off upstairs. I closed the email, stepped away from the laptop, and walked calmly to the living room. I sat down in Frank's old recliner, the one Stephanie kept threatening to replace, and I stared at the wall. They weren't just managing my life. They were planning my removal. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed watching the ceiling, thinking about all the things I had missed. The documents David had asked me to sign for taxes, the new bank account he'd opened to make things simpler, the way my mail had slowly stopped arriving, the friends who'd stopped calling because they couldn't get through. In the morning, I made a decision. I would not confront them. Not yet. I needed to know exactly what they had done, and I needed proof. I had spent 4 decades documenting patient care, charting every medication, every vital sign, every change in condition. I knew how to build a record. My address book was still in my nightstand drawer, the old paper kind, with Carol's number written in blue ink from 15 years ago. I waited until David and Stephanie went to brunch, their Sunday ritual that never included me, and I walked to the gas station 3 blocks away. They had a payphone. I didn't even know payphones still existed. But this one did, tucked against the side of the building like a relic. Carol answered on the second ring. "Ruth? Oh my God, Ruth. I've been trying to call you for weeks. I thought something had happened." "Something has happened," I said, "and I need your help." Carol had been my charge nurse for 12 years. We'd worked codes together, handled difficult families, survived hospital administration. She knew me better than almost anyone. When I told her what I'd found, she didn't gasp or cry or tell me I must be mistaken. She just listened. Then she said, "My niece is an elder law attorney. Her name is Patricia Vance. I'm going to give you her number, Ruth. Call her tomorrow. Do not tell David and Stephanie anything." I wrote the number on my palm with a pen I'd borrowed from the gas station attendant. Patricia Vance. 3 simple words that would change everything. Patricia's office was in a small building downtown, above a bakery that made the whole stairwell smell like cinnamon. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense handshake. "Carol told me about you," she said. "Tell me everything." So I did. The phone, the bills, the mail, the emails, the property transfer inquiry, the senior living search, all of it. Patricia took notes without interrupting. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me directly. "Mrs. Holloway, what you're describing is a textbook pattern of elder financial abuse. It happens more often than people think, usually by family members, usually gradually." I nodded. I had suspected, but hearing it named made it real. She pulled out a folder. "I'm going to need you to get me some documents. Bank statements, if you can access them. Any papers you've signed in the last 3 years. The deed to your house. Do you have copies?" "I don't know," I admitted. "David keeps everything in his office. He says it's for my protection." Patricia's expression hardened slightly. "It's not." She laid out a plan. We would request records from the bank, the county recorder's office, anywhere my name appeared on documents. We would find out exactly what I had signed and what had been done without my consent. And we would do it quietly, without alerting David and Stephanie, until we had enough evidence to act. Before I left, she asked me something that surprised me. "Do you have somewhere safe you could go? If things escalate?" I thought about it. My sister Margaret in Phoenix. She'd been asking me to visit for years. Carol had a guest room. There were options. There had always been options. I just hadn't seen them because I'd been trapped in my own house. "I'm working on it,"
Welcome
I
to my
told her.
studio.
Over the
Today,
next 2
I want to
weeks,
share a story
I
about
became a
journey
spy
that
in my
changed
own
everything
home.
for me.
I woke
It began
early
with a single
before
step into
Stephanie's
the
alarm.
unknown.
I checked the mail before David could intercept it. I photographed documents when they left them unattended. I kept a journal hidden in my sewing basket, the one Stephanie called a dust collector and never touched. The evidence piled up like a diagnosis becoming clear. The power of attorney I'd signed, thinking it was for emergencies, was durable and comprehensive. It gave David control over all my financial and medical decisions. The bank account he'd opened wasn't joint. It was in his name only, funded by transfers from my savings. Nearly $40,000 had been moved in the last 18 months. And the house, my house, where I had brought David home from the hospital, where Frank had proposed to me in the backyard, where I had planned to live until I died. It had been transferred into a trust with David as the sole trustee. I had signed it, believing it was for estate planning purposes. I hadn't been allowed to read it. I didn't have my reading glasses, David had said. He'd summarized it for me. He had lied. The rage I felt was cold and deep, not the hot anger of betrayal, but something older, quieter. The fury of a woman who had saved lives for 4 decades and was now being treated like she couldn't dress herself. I called Patricia with my findings. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "We have enough. I'm filing to revoke the power of attorney tomorrow. The trust is more complicated, but we can challenge it. And Ruth, I need you to start thinking about where you're going to live." I had been thinking about it every night, lying in that bed that no longer felt like mine. I thought about it. Carol had found me a place, a small apartment near her, in a complex for active seniors. Not assisted living, not a facility. Just a regular apartment with a community garden and a book club that met on Thursdays. I had put down the deposit using the small emergency fund I kept in a separate bank, one David didn't know about. It was the money I'd saved from birthday cards and holiday gifts, tucked away out of habit. I never thought I'd need it to escape my own son. The night before I planned to tell David and Stephanie I was leaving, something unexpected happened. My granddaughter Emma showed up at the door. Emma was David's daughter from his first marriage, a quiet girl who'd always seemed uncomfortable around Stephanie. She was 24 now, finishing her graduate degree in social work. She came by once a month or so, always when Stephanie was out, always with homemade cookies and an hour of real conversation. This time, she came with questions. "Grandma," she said, sitting across from me in the living room, "have Dad and Stephanie been treating you okay?" I looked at her carefully. "Why do you ask?" She hesitated. "I've been noticing things, the way they talk about you, the way they make decisions without asking you. I tried calling you a few times, and it went straight to voicemail. Then I called the house, and Stephanie said you were sleeping. At 2 in the afternoon. You've never napped at 2 in the afternoon in your life." I almost smiled. She noticed. Someone finally noticed. I told Emma everything. Not the legal details, but the truth. The isolation, the control, the plan to move me out and sell the house. She listened with tears in her eyes, but she didn't cry. She was too angry to cry. "What can I do?" she asked. "Tell me what you need." "I need you to help me pack," I said. "Friday morning, 6 a.m. before they wake up. Can you do that?" She nodded fiercely. "I'll be here at 5. The next 3 days passed in a strange suspension. I went through the motions of my diminished life, eating the meals Stephanie prepared, answering the questions David asked. Sitting in the living room, watching television I didn't see. Inside, I was counting hours. I packed in secret. Small things at first, items I could slip into boxes and hide in the back of my closet. My photo albums, my jewelry, Frank's letters from when we were dating, the quilt my mother had made for our wedding, things that couldn't be replaced, things they didn't notice because they'd stopped seeing me as a person who had possessions worth keeping. On Thursday evening, David asked me to sign
Welcome to my
something.
storytelling studio.
He came into my room with a
I'm excited to
folder
share this journey
and that
with you.
concerned expression
Let's
he
begin.
wore like a mask. "It's just an update to the trust, Mom. The lawyer said we needed to clarify some things." I held out my hand for the papers. "I've been meaning to read through the trust documents anyway," I said calmly. "I'd like to understand them better." David's face flickered. Something passed through his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or the first crack of fear. "You don't need to worry about the details, Mom. It's complicated, legal language." I looked at him steadily. "I ran a cardiac unit for 15 years, David. I think I can handle complicated language." He pulled the folder back slightly. "Maybe we can go over it this weekend." When there's more time, I smiled. No need. I'll be busy this weekend. He left without another word. I watched him go. This man I had raised, this baby I had held through fevers and nightmares and first heartbreaks. He was a stranger now, or maybe he always had been, and I'd been too close to see it. That night, I wrote a letter. I didn't address it to David or Stephanie. I addressed it to the house itself, to the walls that had held 40 years of my life, to the kitchen where I'd made 10,000 dinners, to the backyard where Frank had taught David to throw a baseball and where we'd scattered his ashes 5 years ago. I'm leaving, I wrote, but I'm taking myself with me. You can have the wood and the brick and the mortgage-free deed, but you can't have what I built here. That belongs to me. I sealed the letter and left it on the kitchen counter, weighted down with the pepper mill Stephanie had bought to replace my old one. Friday morning came gray and cold. Emma's car pulled into the driveway at 4:58 a.m. I was already dressed, my suitcase by the door, my heart beating steady and strong. We worked quickly and quietly. Emma carried boxes to her car. I did a final walk through the house, touching door frames and light switches, saying goodbye to a life that had already ended without my permission. In Frank's office, the one David had claimed as his own, I paused. The filing cabinet where he kept all the documents he thought I'd never find. I had already photographed everything Patricia needed, but there was one more thing. I opened the bottom drawer and found it. A folder labeled Mom Medical. Inside, brochures for memory care facilities, notes in Stephanie's handwriting. Signs of cognitive decline, she'd written. Confusion, forgetfulness, difficulty with technology. I wasn't confused. I wasn't forgetful. I was being systematically prevented from accessing the tools and information I needed to function. Then they documented my failures as evidence that I couldn't function. I took the folder. Patricia would want to see it. By 6:15, the car was loaded. I stood on the front porch one last time, looking at the house in the early morning light. The roses I'd planted along the walkway were overgrown. Stephanie had stopped watering them. She'd wanted to replace them with low-maintenance shrubs. Let her, I thought. Let her replace everything. She was about to learn that some things couldn't be replaced. Emma touched my arm. Ready, Grandma? I nodded. Let's go. I didn't look back as we pulled away. I had looked back enough in my life. At patience, I couldn't save. At the husband, I'd outlived. At the son, I'd apparently never known. Looking back was for people who thought they'd missed something. I hadn't missed anything. I had just finally opened my eyes. The apartment was small and perfect. 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, windows that looked out on a courtyard with a fountain that burbled all day. The building was full of people my age, people who still drove and cooked and had opinions about politics. My neighbor introduced herself on the first day and invited me to poker night. I bought a new phone, set up my own password, called Carol, then Margaret, then every friend who'd thought I'd abandoned them. I had lunch with Patricia to sign the final paperwork. The power of attorney had been revoked. The trust was being challenged in court. My pension and Social Security payments had been redirected to my new account, the one David didn't know about. I changed my will, too. Everything to Emma now. Every cent, every photograph, every piece of furniture I'd managed to rescue. David would get nothing. Not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. You don't reward people for trying to erase you. 3 weeks after I left, David called. I let it go to voicemail. His message was careful, rehearsed. Mom, we're worried about you. We don't know where you went. Please call us. We love you. I deleted it without a second thought. A month later, I got a letter from Stephanie. She'd tracked down my new address, probably through the court filings. The letter was 4 pages of explanation and justification. We were trying to help you. You weren't yourself. We had your best interests at heart. It ended with an invitation to come back home and work things out as a family. I wrote back one line. The house was never the home. I didn't hear from them again. It's been 6 months now. I volunteer at the hospital twice a week, visiting patients who don't have family to sit with them. I go to poker night and usually lose. Emma comes for dinner every Sunday, and we cook together, messy and laughing, the way I used to cook with Frank. I found my old reading glasses last week, tucked in a box I hadn't unpacked yet. They're scratched and the frames are bent, but I keep them on my nightstand. They remind me of who I was when I couldn't see clearly. They remind me of how much I can see now. Sometimes, late at night, I think about David as a boy, the way he used to crawl into bed with me during thunderstorms, the way he cried when Frank died, standing in the hospital hallway where I'd worked for decades, suddenly just a son losing his father. I think about where it went wrong, whether it was him or Stephanie or something in between, whether there was a moment I could have changed things. But then morning comes, and the fountain burbles, and Carol calls to tell me about her grandchildren, and I remember that some questions don't have answers. Some people become strangers. Some houses stop being homes. You don't owe your abuser an explanation for leaving. You don't owe them a second chance. You don't owe them your forgiveness or your ruin or your guilt. You just owe yourself the door. I walked through mine on a Friday morning in March, carrying nothing but the life they tried to bury. I'm still walking. Every day, a little further. Every day, a little more myself. If you're listening to this and something feels familiar, if you're living in a house that used to be yours, if someone is managing your life without asking, if you've started to wonder whether you're really as forgetful as they say, I want you to know something. You're not crazy. You're not confused. You're not too old to fight back. You're just waiting for permission that's never going to come. So take it. Take the phone back. Take the keys back. Take your name back. One call at a time. One box at a time. One quiet morning at a time. And when you finally walk out that door, don't look back. Look forward, then tell your story, so the next woman doesn't have to wait as long as we did.